A long time ago, there lived a wise king whose life was about to come to an end because he was very old. And he had a son, Leo the prince, who was very handsome, but that was it. And it was very obvious that he was not ready to be a king. The prince was young, but also young in the inside. So the king thought to himself what to do with that fellow of him, considering he was about to announce Leo the king. But when all Leo did was fooling around with beautiful ladies all day, the king had sent him to a faraway land called China. When Leo arrived with grim in his face, this chubby guy with a long mustache had ushered him. They called him Master Kong. He was in his early 60s, but had a voice of 30-year-old. For days, all they did was climbing the mountain, without food and just a bit of water. The prince felt miserable. Leo immediately collapsed to the ground once they reached the deep and high mountain. Then Master Kong, who doesn't seem to even showing a drop of sweat, gave him a water. The training starts right now, Your Highness. So be it, Leo replied without a breath. Then Master Kong had chained the prince at the cliff in his wrist with a cuff that was made of wood. And the chain that was bolted to the ground was no more long than Leo's very own height. What is the meaning of this? Lesson 1. Wise man must know he is powerless before getting wise. But how long do I need to stay here like this? He had shook the chain with confusion and just a tad of annoyance. Every day. Are you insane? I'll come tomorrow to give you some water. Before he went along, he turned around and said, Say hi to your new teacher. He was talking about the nature. As the prince sat down knowing that Master Kong had disappeared for good, and for 30 minutes of screaming, he actually did start to feel just a dust in the wind. Gosh, I'm starving, he thought to himself, pressing his belly, and looked up the sun. And there it was, looking like a king of the sky. He lied down and watched the sky for a minute, then fell asleep. When he woke up, he was mesmerized by the moon, for it was illuminating the most calming light ever. A confusing star of young king and also an endearing memoir now. Leo would think now and then about the event that happened 60 years ago, and after a year when it was time for farewell with Master Kong. He can still remember as the ship moved slowly away, the figure of Master Kong getting smaller, and eventually the fog had blurred parts of him. When he got back to mainland and after his father's funeral, he asked one of the guard to tie him up at the edge of the cliff where he can see the world, and waited until the ego inside him were quiet. When his mind was like clear water, he can now see the light inside him. He smiled, and the great king inside him had breathed in the air with his nostrils. My ego looks like people, and the great king within looks like the nature. Master Kong once said to young King 6 years ago, in the conversation they had, sometimes there's going to be an event that you only will feel stuck, but practice makes it perfect. Practice what, sir? There's a world out there you need to roll. And also there's a second world you need to roll. What's the second one? The world inside you. If you can stay in the state of silence from that, then the real world wouldn't be much problem. But how do I do that, Master Kong? Leo asked with doubt in his voice. Kneel before the people within without being them. The only thing you need to do is listen. Remember, Your Majesty, the state of silence is the real king. You are just a wise man who knows he thyself is not. Let the real king do its job. There's a reason that I chained you in the cliff for so long. Fastest way to make ego realize.
realize, Leo repeated, that it is powerless, just like a realization of how small you are before the nature.
The